A couple of announcements here before we move into the evening program. First, as a reminder to everybody, as we move forward into the year, that we are looking towards moving towards an integration of reservations pricing. Let me tell you just a really quick reason why. Number one, it's fiscal responsibility. The reason being is we're looking towards reserving so that we can properly and appropriately order the number of meals that we need, so that we can be as responsible as we can be with club resources. So just kind of a quick update on that. So what you see here is a breakdown. March 12th, BGM coming up, Park City Club. So come join us there, please. April the 23rd, the next monthly meeting, which will be the annual Trophy and Photo Awards Contest. It's a great time, celebration of our way of life, conservation through hunting model. Those that are new, those that have been in sport for a long time, there's lots of things there for many people to come and enjoy and celebrate, so please join us for that. May the 2nd is a great event that many people in the room, as I look around, have participated in the past. We've got a couple of great things coming to surprise you with as far as to sort of entice your participation this year. You're going to be excited to see the Big Boy Shoot sponsored by Heinz. So come out and support that. Great fellowship with each other. Have fun poking each other so you can come out on top at the end of the day and enjoy that. And then May 21st, the next monthly meeting will be with Mr. Larry Wassoon. Everybody in this room knows Larry probably personally, certainly know of Larry. So obviously a great time with a friend, certainly a friend and ambassador of DSC. So put that on your calendars, please, to come and make sure you come and enjoy that. So now I have the privilege of launching us into the rest of the evening tonight. Dave Fulson is our speaker tonight. Many people know Dave is a larger live personality, from an author, on TV, hosted shows, all things DSC. Great contributor to the organization. We're very proud to have you, Dave. If you please join me. How about a big round of applause? Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, boss. Thank you, Corey, and thank you for everybody being here tonight. I look like a gunslinger. I've got on 2 mics instead of 6 guns. I hope they're working in conjunction, so let me know if they're not. But first of all, the February meeting, I've been lucky enough to present it for the last several years, and it's a date that's always on my calendar that I look forward to really above all others. First of all, it's great to be with the friends and family. And, you know, when I say friends and family, that's what I mean. Dallas Safari Club is a family. And it's something that you find out real quickly. And like any family, you'll get out of it what you put into it. But they're some of the finest people on planet Earth that are members of our organization. And some of my very, very best friends, some of my very best hunting trips started with people that I met here. And, you know, there's 2 kind of members in my mind. There's the members that we have and the members that we're hoping to attract. And I know some of you were recognized tonight, and for others of you that are here that are thinking about it, say, I want to find out more, I'd like to join. You grab any of us that you've seen up here or any of our directors, and we can make that happen, because you will be welcome. Dallas Safari Club can be a little bit of a misnomer to some people. Think, well, I've got to hunt Africa. We got members, active members, that may never get out of the great state of Texas, and that's fabulous. We've got members that have been all over the world 15 times. It's a very inclusive club. You'll not find snobbery. You won't find highbrow at Dallas Safari Club. You will find a welcoming atmosphere of people that share exactly the same passions that you share. So, first of all, welcome to all of our guests, you know, and our membership. Thank you for having me again this year. I'm going to be just a little bit redundant, but I think it's worth saying. On the heels of the greatest convention we've had, Mark mentioned that being the chairs for the convention was humbling and exciting. He missed a really important word, and that's backbreaking. And the job that they did with Irvine's assistance, you know, it is such a monumental job to put this convention on, especially one that runs literally flawlessly. And we are very, very unique in our situation because of the DSC 100. People think, well, there's 100 people. No. DSC 100 is a term. It really represents 100% commitment and effort. And that's by our volunteers, non-paid, people that are so passionate testament that they give their time, they give their dedication, they give their various experiences to make sure this convention runs right for all the vendors. I've been on the receiving end of that. I've been a vendor at the Dallas Safari Club show back in the bow and arrow days, when 20-something years ago, when it was at Market Hall. And I have been a vendor in all the shows. And the difference in the treatment and the friendliness, maybe it's just Texas hospitality, but it's really a little bit more. It's DSC hospitality. So to all of our DSC 100, which actually I believe was 500 volunteers this year, my hat's off to you. You do a job that is so recognized within our industry. You know, when I think back of where Dallas Safari Club started, and you know, sometimes I hear the word club, and you know, we've come a long way. We used to really, you know, be, back in the early days, you know, more or less a regional deal. You'd be at the convention and say, well, somebody'd come talk to you about a safari. Well, where are you from? Well, Texarkana. Oh man, you traveled a long way to get here. I might be from Galveston or Houston. And as our organization has grown, we have grown into not one of, but the leading organization representing international hunting and conservation on planet Earth. And if you were at our Saturday night banquet, no night in the history of our organization more clearly pointed out our leadership position. The mantle of leadership has been placed on this organization and the group of people and our leadership. And I just want to say a real quick thing about our leaders. You know, of course, that starts with Corey Mason. Like a lot of people in the organization, when Corey came on board, we really didn't, you know, a lot of us didn't know Corey. And I will say this, I believe we could have circled planet Earth 15 times and could not come up with a better man to lead this organization. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. There's a guy that works under him a lot. You know, Scott Toberman, our outgoing president, Scott reminds me of the old saying, you know, that quiet waters run deep. Scott's leadership has been immense this year. You know, I learned really quick about Scott. You know, he's not going to be the loudest voice in the room, but it is so obvious when Scott talks, it's worth listening to, because Scott is really good at listening to different opinions, and he'll weigh information and make his decisions. And Scott, you have been a steadying force in some troubled seas every now and then, and I'm greatly, this entire club's greatly appreciative of you. It's my pleasure to serve on the Dallas Safari Club Foundation Board. That's our 501c3 foundation, which is so wonderfully managed by Richard Cheatham over here. You know, our foundation is gaining strength and has gained traction, and really we featured the good that we're doing on Saturday night at our convention, and it really was one of the most exciting nights I think that this organization's ever had. I mean, we had people from all over the world that were there. We raised a ton of money for our foundation, and by raising money for our foundation, it enables us to support our mission, you know, of education, conservation, and advocacy. And one of the more difficult jobs in this whole outfit is executive director of our foundation. Richard, you do a fabulous job at it. It's a pleasure to serve under you. And of course, Richard's, I don't see John out here, but his right-hand man, John Eads, most of you know John. John's been, you know, a really active member. John's an accountant. He's got an analytical mind. He's a stickler for numbers and stuff, but boy, nothing gets past John. And I always appreciate the expertise that John brings. And of course, my friend John Patterson back here, the third leg of our group is the frontline Frontline Foundation. And we're going to talk about that, but it's called the Dallas Safari Club Frontline Foundation. And I'll introduce that in just a little bit here in my program. But John is the perfect man for that. John is John's a guy that cares about people. He's a guy that cares about this organization. And he cares about this industry. And you'll see a little bit of that in motion in here in just a little bit. But the other thing I want to thank is our board members. And we've got a lot of board members on the foundation, from DSC, from the front line. And it takes a lot of commitment. Again, we're a different, our responsibilities and our challenges are larger than they used to be in years past. And the board is really the engine that runs the decisions. And you know, it's a lot of service, it's a lot of spare time, but you know, with service comes sacrifice. And our board members put in the hours, and you know, we debate back and forth, and sometimes they're really lively debates, but I couldn't be more proud of the work that our board oversees. And on top of the board, I'd like to say a little something to the families of board members. I know firsthand, you know, my wife says, "You're doing what? Well, you were there last night." I know, but we've got a special meeting. You know, there's sacrifice from the families, but I want to say to all of the families, thank you for your support. If you're married to a board member, thank you for your support and letting us have the time to fight the important fights that we have to fight. It is greatly appreciated. And last, I want to say again to our members, you know, you are the heartbeat, the heart and soul of our organization. And if you are not a member, all I can say, you are so wanted. And we appreciate you being here tonight. And, you know, we will hope you will join the DSC family. So with that, you asked me to come out here and present a program tonight, so I'm going to try to do that. Yeah, my name is Dave Fulson, for some of you that don't know me. I'm the host of the Dallas Safari Club's Tracks Across Africa television show, and we're in our 15th season. And I've done seminars in the past, from leopards to elephants to this to dangerous game, the aquatic monsters, crocodiles, and I told Corey, I'm running out of species. And I think it was actually Cameron Kinzer that came up with the idea. He said, I don't know how many times people ask me, well, how did Safari Classics, our production company, get started? How did it all work? And he said, that might be a fairly interesting topic. And I gave that a noodle, and like most of Cameron's ideas, they're pretty darn good ideas. And so I started pecking around. So what I'm going to present to you tonight is kind of the answer to that question. So let's see if we're keyed up here. I decided to call this Hunting Television, the ups and downs of the world's hardest reality show. And you hear so much about reality show, and if you watch any of that nonsense, it's pretty obvious that reality is the furthest thing in the world from those productions. And I tease my wife all the time. She makes me watch these ghost shows and stuff, where they're in the house and the spirits, and I can go 3, 2, 1, ghost. Boom. What was that? What was that? And they hear these searching for Bigfoot shows and stuff. I said, we could do 13 shows with our company in our backyard in about 10 hours searching for Bigfoots that we never see or something. I said, but we're out chasing elephants and lions and leopards and all that. But we're going to talk about true reality show. Now, I call this the early days. Now, Tim and I have been around a long time. We've been in the safari business for it seems like a whole lot of years. But it's a passion. Now, Tim Dancliffe, that's my original partner, and most of you know Tim. Now, when I met Tim, he was the president of what was called the North Texas SCI chapter. And I joined that, and because for the same pitch that I'm making to our guest tonight, I wanted to be around more people that really shared the kind of passions that I did. And so I checked that out, and Tim happened to be the president at the time, and really enjoyed my experience there, and eventually became a 2-term president of that organization myself before I discovered Dallas Safari Club. But Tim had a company. He worked for Anheuser-Busch in upper management for 15 years and retired at a really young age, and he started a company called Timbuktu Sporting Adventures. And Africa was what, Tim was selling. Well, at about the same time, I had a company called Total Outdoor Adventures. I just turned 60 in October. I've never had a job outside of the hunting and fishing business in my life. So when I say it's more of a, I turned a vacation into a vocation, you might could say, but Africa, I thought my chances as a blue-collar kid from Hurst, Texas, getting to go to Africa was going to be about on par with me being the captain of the next space shuttle mission. And I financially couldn't figure out how to get there, and a camera got me there. It was just when a few people were starting to, I knew a little bit about working in camera. I'd done a lot of deer stuff and had a little reputation for, being a hunter that could also, video. And I know a lot of you know Mark Sullivan, the guy that likes to kill stuff 2 foot from your boots. Well, those are my damn boots about half the time, because I videoed quite a bit from Mark in the early days, and it was an eye-opening experience. But so while I was doing that, I was shooting a lot of video. And Tim was shooting a lot of video. When we started comparing videos and said, we ought to, the video business was just in its infancy. We said, we ought to start, combining some of our stuff, and, man, we'll make some money. Now, that old bird in the middle is a guy named Ian Nations. If you've ever read the greatest book out of Zimbabwe of all time, Months of the Sun, Ian, that was about a week before Ian died. Now, that guy was an elephant poacher, and I say as in poaching and not the good kind of poacher. I mean, he was an elephant poacher, but we lived in a different day back in his time. That old bird's killed a hell of a lot of people. I mean, the toughest cob you've ever met in your life. But he turned into Zimbabwe's first game warden. And so it's a really interesting story, and we had just met him, and you can see he doesn't have his arms around us. He's a pretty guarded old guy, but we will do something. We spent 2 days with Ian, and what we shot with him is just treasure stuff, and we're waiting for the right time to release it. But his story, if you ever want to read the greatest book on Zimbabwe, Months of the Sun. But we decided to form a company called Safari Classics. Eventually in 2000, but that's getting a little bit ahead. So we know old buddy Bob Harper with Outdoor Visions, and Bob sold the tapes and stuff, and they were mostly deer hunting and bass fishing and elk hunting. So we said, well, we're going to create this deal. And what do they say? 25, action-packed hunts and stuff. Now, those are on VHS. And I dug those out the other day. But while we knew we were going to make big money on, I think, the $7 that we made each time we sold one, they were really marketing tools for us. And actually, there wasn't a lot of competition, and we highlighted the outfitters that Tim and I were respectively working for. And we actually sold a whole lot of safaris. Now, that morphed into another opportunity. Tim knew Craig Boddington, pretty well. I knew Craig a little bit. We're talking to Bob one day, and he said, what would really sell? How good Sullivan's doing with some of that stuff you shot for him. He's making a killing. You guys should do a Cape Buffalo movie. Now, Tim and I actually had a whole lot of buffalo footage of our own hunts and other hunts that we filmed. We approached Craig, who, Craig obviously had done a great deal of buffalo hunting. Was certainly, nowadays he's, more recognizable than back then. He was an author. You knew his byline. You might not know his much more. But we approached him about a movie called Boddington on Buffalo. And it was going to be the be-all, end-all, last word, and nobody would ever have to do another video on buffalo till the end of the world. Well, I think that's our first of 5 different buffalo movies that we've done now. But it's Africa's most, popular, affordable, dangerous game species. It's really the gateway species for most people into African safari hunting. And I'm not sure Sullivan and I can argue back and forth of who's sold the most, but it's a close run. Even if we're in second place, I'm awfully proud of that. We have literally sold thousands and thousands and thousands, and it was always a pleasure. And people say, you launched my desire to go shoot a buffalo, and I went to Dallas Safari Club, and I booked a buffalo hunt because of that. And we started a safari business called Chafuti Safaris, and that's Craig and Andrew Dawson in the middle. And I watched that movie for the first time in about 5 years, and it still holds up. The information in there, I'm still really, really proud of that production. But that really got us to ringing a bell, saying, okay, we may be onto something. We're selling a bunch of DVDs at $39.95 and $6.95 and handling and stuff, and it was pretty profitable, especially when we were just getting started. But where we were making our money was on the safaris, and it was a good pairing. Well, we got the idea because about that time, a deal called the Outdoor Channel. There was the Outdoor Channel and the Men's Channel were the two outfits that were starting to do actual hunting television. And we watched that stuff, and of course, most of it was, bass fishing and deer hunting, a little bit elk hunting, turkey hunting. But, by that time, we had some pretty impressive stuff. We had so much success that Boddington wanted to be a part of it, and we said, why don't we do a TV show? We've got the safari connections. Craig's kind of got the name. We have the camera ability. This could be something. So in 2004, we got all of our stuff together, and we said, everybody talked to their wives, and we talked to the bankers and all that. Said, can we pull this off? Well, let's set up a call with the Outdoor Channel. And they had a guy named Wade Sherman, so we gave Wade a call and made our pitch. And that's pretty much the look on his face as we were talking about this deal. We said it's buffalo, it's elephants, it's crocodiles, it's what. I mean, our footage. And he literally took us into more or less a broom closet, and we had about a 20-minute meeting, and he said, look, people make fun of us because they say you're the bass fishing, turkey hunting, deer hunting deal. That's what people do. And let me tell you, I know a little bit about production. And this guy was straight out of Jersey Shore. I mean, had the black leather jacket and the slick back hair and the attitude because he was up from that area. And I don't think he could have found Africa on a map, but he said, people do not and will not want something that they can't personally do. Okay, now, more than once in my life, I've been accused of having just a little bit of smartassery in my DNA. I said, well, at the risk of, I said, Wayne, it's late February. We just got through with a little sporting event called the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know how many people tuned in. It was a couple of billion, but I know there's 28 teams that have 52 players. So if you had, let's say, 1 billion people that watched it, so you're telling me all of those people are going to end up in a training camp in pads next year? I said, I don't think so. They're entertained. I'm never going to try to jump the fountain at Caesars, but I sure tuned in when Evel Knievel was trying to do it. I'm never going to eat a plate full of hissing cockroaches from Madagascar, but I'd watch it on Fear Factor because I found it entertaining. And we said, people aspire, to do things that they've not done. What one of us, when we were a kid, we're hunting whitetails and stuff, hadn't thought, hey, what if I was tracking a line? I mean, what must that be like? So we've all done that. So we pitched it, so we got everything ready. We got our analytics. We had some sponsors that were interested, so we went out to Temecula, California, and I mean, Tim and I were ready. We had all of our stuff together. We analyzed, we had our numbers, we had our metrics, we had finances. We were ready to make our pitch. And it kind of went something like this. He wasn't too impressed because he said, people, you won't find an audience, but I'll take your money. And he did. And he did take our money. And in 2005, we launched a show called Tracks Across Africa. And we thought that was going to be a pretty good title for it because literally we were making tracks all over the continent of Africa. And in the early days, I still think back on those days and the time away. And I mean, you talk about sacrifice. Now, we sacrificed it. it cost a lot of finance. It cost a lot of wear and tear on the chassis. It cost me a marriage. I mean, it was being gone literally for 6 months a year. And it was difficult, but that's what it took. We didn't have money for camera crews and stuff. If you saw it, Tim and I were shooting it ourselves. And I wouldn't trade those days for anything, but I'm awful glad I don't have to completely relive them every year. But they were great years. I really wouldn't trade them. I really wouldn't trade them. So there we are now. We've hit the big time. We're at an award show, and by this time, Tim and I had the absolute plan on how to make, a guaranteed foolproof plan for making a small fortune in the TV hunting business. And that's to start with a really large fortune. Because there are probably things you could do to make more money, but passion drove us more than finance, certainly. Dallas Safari Club came in on our third year. Our first year, or 2 years, Surefire, the flashlight people came in. They wanted to be our title sponsor. Now, Dallas Safari Club, Gray Thornton was executive director then, and they came in as a major sponsor, and that was 15 years ago. We're going into our 16th year. But Gray had said, if that Surefire deal ever changes, I want your audience, and I want that show, and I want it to be titled Dallas Safari Club. So the third year, the guy that owned Surefire married a woman that was a big anti-hunter. She said, well, I don't want you to have nothing to do with this. So they dropped out. Dallas Safari Club took it over, and there is absolutely no prayer that we could have ever found a better fit and a better partner than Dallas Safari Club, because they represent everything we wanted to represent, and hopefully we have, DSC has felt the same about us. Eventually, we were shooting so much video in Africa, we created a second show, which debuted in 2012, called Hornady's Dark and Dangerous. Has a little bit different format, where there'll be like 3 hunts going on at any one time if you've seen it. And then we decided to go globally in 2010 with Trigicon's World of Sports Afield. And we might be in Texas on whitetail, or Tanzania after line, New Zealand, Africa, Russia. We've been everywhere in the world with that show. Just, a little departure from Africa. Now this is not reality, I asked Heather, I said, I've got a deal with the Kardashians tonight. She said, you've got what? I said, I got a picture of the Kardashians in my program. Why? I said, you'll see. But that's not reality. This is reality. Well, that's kind of our house. We said, when we were going to do an all-African show, our goal was to be the biggest fish in an admittedly smaller bowl. But the second year we went back to Wayne with the deal, and I'm not joking, so we established a really big following really, really quick. The second year we came in there, we were like headed to the broom closet. No, guys, come on, here, sit in my chair. Where you guys want to go to lunch? You know what I mean? And it was a completely different deal. We need to get you guys on Saturday, no more of this Wednesday stuff. And the Outdoor Channel really bought into it, and it was a pleasant departure. But I think that's the first time Tim and I kind of looked at each other and said, at the end of the day, this might all be worth it. We may be on to something. We're maybe on the right track here. Well, the formula, and there was a lot of formulas as we were designing our show. You know, Tracks was what we call a documentary show, and generally our track show, we'll do some theme shows, you know, where I might host a deal on just leopard hunting. So today, instead of, you know, Mr. Smith going leopard hunting, we're gonna break down the sport of leopard hunting, the where you do it, the what you shoot them with, do's and don'ts of the sport, or crocodiles or elephant or whatever it may be. But generally we're a documentary show. So, you know, a client will arrive, and let me say this, we don't have a Michael Waddell or Jim Shockey deal. You know, Craig for a while hosted the show, eventually Ivan Carter hosted the shows, and eventually, you know, I've been hosting them for a few years, and we'll probably go forward with that, because ours was never about one guy. You know, the same guy just hunting a different animal every week. We really like to show, you know, our clients and our friends and our corporate sponsors, you know, we like to show real people doing hunting. So we try to hook up with them when they arrive in country, and we feel like the destination, it could be the game, it could be the professional hunter, it could be something special, quest that the client, there's all kinds of different stories. And our job as producers to pluck out, you know, carve out those stories and tell a compelling deal that somebody, even though it's not them or their favorite TV celebrity, they're gonna learn something and they're gonna look at it and say, I really enjoyed that episode. And so, you know, it's really a documentary show. Of course, we'll follow whatever hunt that we're following, and I will say the first 5 years, we did something nobody's ever done in the Outdoor Channel. For 5 years, we produced 26 new episodes a year. And that's never been done. And that's why I'm saying, when I'm talking about 6 or 7 months, you know, I was, you know, there's African Americans. Well, Tim and I were American Africans, because that was where we were living. And we eventually just buckled under that pressure, but, you know, we had a system and we were a little more profitable and we didn't have to do that. But, you know, our average hunt, a small hunt, is going to be a 7-day plains game hunt. A normal buffalo hunt's a 10-day, lion, leopard, and all that's 21 days. So you can imagine the commitment of time and effort it took to get 26 new shows for 5 years in a row. One of the most important things that we've always tried to do, and today we've kicked that, you know, with our work with Dallas Safari Club and our DSC Foundation, is telling what we call the conservation through hunting story. And it's not about, we don't harp on record books and this one was that and that one was this long and the horns or what, you know, there's always a conservation story, because hunters' dollars are the engine that fuels conservation, or the fuel that, you know, runs the engine of conservation. And, you know, whether it's meat utilization or something that a safari company's done in an area, an anti-poaching initiative that's been developed, that's being paid for by hunters, there's lots and lots of stories. And honestly, I think we, as an organization, through our show, I think we do that better than anybody in the industry. And it's something we pay a lot of attention to and take great pride, because we've got to tell that story. It's not about trophies, it's not about record books. You know, we want to be seen, yeah, we went there and took something home, a lion, a leopard, some ivory, but part of the story is there's a whole lot we left behind. And that's really more important than what we took home with us. So that's the story we work hard on. You know, of course, there's a million little things that we try to capture, special moments at the camp, and you know, just the entire experience. You know, there's a lot that goes into that, but you know, we just try to capture the entire experience, and it could not be done without these. And these are the people that you know, we have worked with. DSC been there forever. Hornady since day one. Trigicon since day one. Sam Safaris, Wildlife Gallery, Ripcord. We just switched a firearm. We just switched the first major sponsor we've done in like 12 years. We've been with Ruger for 15 years. And well, I've got some really, really good friends. Ruger has made some switches in their marketing department, and hunting, especially our style of hunting, seems to be something they are no longer interested in being associated with. And I hate that for a great company like Ruger. Thankfully, Remington Company said if anything ever happens to that relationship, we want you guys. And we've just formed a new partnership with Remington, and we're really looking forward to that. But we could not do, it's a pay to play. You know, a show like Seinfeld, you get a venture capitalist, they invest in some episodes, you take them to NBC, they like them, they like your pilots, and they say, okay, we want to produce it, or we want to pay you X to produce it. And that's the way most television works. That's not the way our world works. I mean, you're going to pay the network, then you're going to get as much sponsorship as you can, do a good job to keep them. Then you add up your travel, your employees, your insurance, your camera, your equipment, all that, and then that little deal at the end, that's what you make a living on. But we couldn't do what we do without the sponsors. And the biggest compliment we'll ever have as a production company, every one of our major sponsors started with Trax and migrated to each one of our new shows. So every one of our major sponsors is a sponsor of all three of our shows, something we're extremely proud of and grateful for. Sponsor messaging, it's very important. You know, we try to show our sponsors products and organizations in manners where it doesn't feel like you're having it driven down your throat. You know, we try to teach, we try to instruct, we try to, you know, show there is a reason we are using this like, or we're shooting this Hornady bullet today, or, you know, you can see up at top left, yeah, we're always flying that DSC flag in both, you know, visually as well as, you know, all the time that we spend talking about our organization. So we just try to make sponsor messaging an integral but natural part of the show where it's not commercial. People don't tune in to be, you know, have commercials rammed at them. They tune in to enjoy, and they tune in to hopefully learn. And we have people every year that compliment us on that, say, I really like the way you do your messaging. So we work hard on that. The danger factor, and it is really a reality of our deal. If you're hunting whitetails, you might fall out of your tree stand and land on your own arrow or something. That's about as dangerous as it's going to be. But in our world, danger, and we do about 95% of our stuff is dangerous game hunting. We do plains game hunts are generally just a part of it, overall dangerous game hunt. So there is a factor that we deal with that a lot of production companies don't. And I tell people, you know, every day when you unzip that tent, you know, one thing that everybody got run over by a buffalo or drug off by a lion or bitten by a crocodile, one thing we all have in common, we didn't think it was going to happen to us today, but it can and it does. Now, it doesn't have to be a buffalo to run over you. Here's a really, I call this the hard day at the office. Now, I'm in the Central African Republic. A few years ago, it's 117 right there, and that's no joke. It would get up to about 116, 17 every day. Now, that's the look I wear. When I got there, a guy introduced himself as my PH, and he's hobbling along, and I look down there, and he's got a cast on, and we're hunting Lord Derby eland, which is like hunting Secretariat, you know, I mean, because those things go like hell, and they never stop. And I said, man, it looks like you broke your leg. He said, oh, no, just, no, he's a froggy, he's a French guy. No, just my foot. So just your foot. Okay, you know, all right. Well, that was really that was the best news about the guy. The second day, I discovered he was a raging alcoholic and he was addicted to every painkiller on planet Earth. So the third day, we got up after 2 really disappointing hunting days, and he asked me, he said, well, where do you want to hunt today? I said, where do I want to? I said, well, I didn't mention to you, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, right? You know, I said, I'd like to find some eland tracks, eventually with an eland standing in them, you know. And he says, Dave, I've been thinking, you're a very good hunter, very experienced. You know the elands, you know. He says, I'm going to send you my feet hurt badly. I can't hunt no more. So I spent the rest of a 15-day safari, which was the wrong time to go in the first place. I got the hunt at a really good price from a guy who had bought it at the wrong time of year. You kill these things in January and February, and you bake your brains out in late April when I hunted and the wind's blowing from 16 different directions at the same time. So, you know, that really, I thought that's the tough part of the hunt. But one good thing, one day tracking, we found this beautiful stream, you know, so. Now, it's 116 degrees, let me tell you, you bumble on this, beer comes out and the butt goes in, you know. And that was the good news. That was really a refreshing deal till about 2 weeks later when I got back in the deal. I developed the damnedest parasitic infection in the history. I had two. Now, it got into me. I don't know whether it came in from the north or came up from the south, but it got in there somewhere. And one day I'm eating dinner with my wife a couple of weeks later over in Fort Worth, and she says, you are sweating up a storm. I said, yeah, are you not hot? No, I'm not, you know, I'm not really hungry either, you know, but boy, then, you know, a little while later, she said, Dave, you are like sheeting, you know. So an hour later, I knew there was a really pretty brunette talking to me in the hospital. I had no idea if it was my wife or it could have been the Kardashians for all I knew, but somebody was there explaining to the doctor that her husband was dying. And on the way to the hospital, I said, I have malaria. I mean, 100%. And never contracting malaria before. I've seen some really tough, most of my friends have had it over there, and I can see the first attack's a tough one. And I just said, you make them double, triple check me for malaria, but I've got it. I could have cerebral because I am going fast. And I was out. Long story short, over about a month and a half, I had a couple of reoccurring attacks of it. Lost 29 pounds, gave about 14 pints of blood, and eventually had a tropical disease specialist at Baylor said, well, look, I know you're a hunter. You probably got stuff hanging on your head. I think I'm just going to give you my diploma. You can hang in there because I don't know what the hell you got. But he said, your white blood count is through the stratosphere, and we're going to give you some stuff that'll kill about 3 healthy rhinos. And the cure, when they said the cure was worse than whatever you had, it was. But I mean, Africa can get you one way or another. Now you can be a cameraman. Now here's a friend of mine that shot one of these damn Lord Derby elands. And this is just a funny deal because we always talk about the job of a cameraman. Let me tell you what, when something charges you, it doesn't know whether it's charging the hunter, the PH, the tracker, the guy holding the camera, or whatever. So this guy does it right. So our cameraman, we're gonna have a big celebration. No cameraman's thinking, thank God we don't have to walk in this heat every day. So, man, let's go into the village like the conquering heroes that we are, and everybody's gonna be happy. We can sleep in the morning. Hey, I'm just gonna lean back and get a really cool shot here out of the truck. And that's what happened when a mopani tree about that big grabs you at 20 miles an hour by the head. So this is, you know, I was filming. I'm all right. Who are you? This is what that feels like in slow-mo. Well done, Doug, stunt cameraman. But in a more serious deal, you know, again, the danger factor is real, and it exists, and it exacts a terrible toll within our industry, not just in Africa, but especially in Africa. A couple of them take you up to the top slide. The fellow on the top left is Owen Lewis, our senior hunter at Chifuti Safaris. Had 2 more safaris, and he was going to end his 40-year safari career. Had a different client, wounded a buffalo. Said, this is your job. I'm tired of this. I'm going to go sit in the tent Owen stayed on that track for literally 2 days with an apprentice hunter and 2 of his trackers. When the client wounded it, Owen had been able to hit it twice in the butt going off. 2 days, they tracked this thing. They finally found it. It charged flat out. By the time the shootout was done, the buffalo, when he died on top of Owen, had 9 bullets in him, but he killed our friend. And it just shocked me then. It's still shocking. One of the finest men in the world. The guy on the bottom right, a guy in the bloom of a heck of a career, Wayne Clark in Tanzania. Wayne was hunting buffalo, but they weren't on any serious tracks. They were really moving into an area to hunt. And a buffalo that had been mauled by lions was just laying up sick and hurt and mad at the world, and came charging out of nowhere and killed Wayne. And then my brother, Ian Gibson, not my literal brother, but my brother by another mother, Ian Gibson, without any doubt, the most experienced professional hunter in the Zambezi Valley, if not in Tanzania. We had a client that he was hunting, and it was a fellow that he booked at the Dallas Safari Club, and I remember talking, and the guy talked to me on the phone. He said, I want to hunt elephant. I got 1 leg, and I hunt on crutches. And you think, I'm thinking about that. He said, but I've taken all 4 North American sheep. I had cancer when I was 8 years old. I'm, in early 60s. He said, I've taken, like 8 sheep species. And he said, I'm not saying I'm the toughest guy in the world, and when I can't go, I won't be able to go, but I'll hunt with you till I can't go. We set the hunt up, and the guy was a fabulous guy, but they'd been on a track of a bull that was in must, which is an elephant rut, and he was just back and forth, and he was following females, and we're in river sand. I say I wasn't on hand there, but he was really struggling with his crutches in the sand. And so Gibbo told him, he said, look, this thing is starting to slow down a little bit. Give me 2 hours. I'm going to leave you here. Give me 2 hours and let me and Robert, his tracker, take off and try to see this thing. And he said, if it's got good ivory, I'm going to send the guy back to get you, bring you and we'll go in and try to get a look at him. But I don't want to waste any more time. Give me 2 hours. And so finally Gibbo caught this thing, and it was in a little wash, and it was feeding on a felled baobab tree. And Robert, his tracker, been in on so many elephants, nobody would even know. But afterwards, Robert told me, I've never seen an elephant turn, spot, and come. And Gibbo, you've probably seen some of our movies where elephants are coming at us, and hey, and they stop from here to there and kick dirt at you and stuff. Well, this one wasn't going to stop. And Gibbo shoots a bolt-action rifle. He could have shot him twice, but he didn't want to shoot it because it was a big one-tusker. But the elephant didn't stop, and Gibbo made the shot as the head was dropping, and he missed the brain, and it cost him his life. And we've seen a lot of these kind of things happen in Africa with our friends. Who's our customers? Our customers are our vendors at the show, and our professional hunters and guides and outfitters of the world. And we meet them as our customers, and we develop, family relationships with them. And when we started seeing enough of this, it was really the birth of a bunch of conversations that turned into what we call the DSC Frontline Foundation, which is a fund that we raise money for and put aside, and when professional hunters, guides, and outfitters are wounded or killed in the line of duty, and this includes their immediate staff that's hunting, and several years ago we even raised it to where it includes anti-poaching personnel, whether it's in Tajikistan or Tanzania. And out of all the things that I've ever been associated with that I take exceptional pride in is being able to be on the board of the DSC Frontline Foundation. And we change lives. And boy, if you'd ever like to support that, it takes finances to support everything that we do, but boy, there's not a better feel-good deal. And we every year, things happen, and we're there for people, and it's people that don't even know we exist. And they get a phone call from John Patterson, said, we've heard about your, and they kind of think I'm being scammed here. So no, we want to financially help you. I mean, our organization is set up for exactly what happened to you. Maybe it's medical bills. Maybe it's a professional hunter's, gored and he's going to miss the rest of his season. And, and we don't, it's not a cradle to grave life insurance plan, but we're there to help and we make a real difference. And so, again, I salute Mr. John back there for doing the excellent job he does as our president, but boy, that's a really great reason to be proud of DSC. Now the human factor. Now, the greatest part of our job is mostly the people that we get to meet, and nearly all these are DSC members. John Michael up on the top, we got Tim Fallon down there on the right, we got Allie Tolson, Jim Tolson, one of our longtime board members and ex-president, his daughter, Steve Hornady down there. We just get to hunt with mostly the greatest people you can ever imagine, and it's always fun to hunt with great people. But like anything else, not all. And there were just a few of the highlights and kind of tongue-in-cheek on some of this, but the guys that make it a little hard is Mr. Record Book, and the guy, he shows up with a record book in one hand and the tape measure in the other if he doesn't have a picture of National Geographic and here's the buffalo that I'd like to shoot. I said, oh, yeah. I said, we're about 3,500 miles south of that one because he lives in the Ngorongoro crater. I filmed that exact same buffalo, by the way. And that people hunt for the wrong reasons. It's all about scoring and it's all about body counts and all that. And that can take a lot of fun out of the hunt. When somebody doesn't appreciate the day-to-day wonder of being in exotic places and hunting new animals or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with trying to shoot big stuff. I like to do it too. But it's not the ultimate measuring stick for if I had a good safari or a good hunt, whether it's whitetail in Brownwood or brown bears on Kodiak. So we try to weed those guys out a little bit. Now here's the deal. How does my rifle work? Well, I just bought my new rifle. Now this next deal, we're going to replay this. We try not to name names, so let's just call this guy Robert Allen from Crescent, Texas. Now I'm going to show you this. I'm going to start at the start as I tell you the next little deal. Now this guy literally bought that rifle about 2 days before he went on the safari, and it was bore sighted. We sighted in. But my second victim, which is my friend over in the black cowboy hat, one of my very best friends. No, the green shirt black cowboy hat. But usually we protect the innocent, by not mentioning names. But we were on a hunt. I was guiding Robert on a hunt at a ranch up in Oklahoma. And we've been hunting pretty hard. The weather was bad. We'd had a lot of bad luck and stuff. But anyhow, Robert said, one of our other buddies, it's Cameron's dad, Scott Keith, had this new rifle he just bought. I mean, it was one of those $8,000 custom rifles and stuff. And I told Robert, shoot mine. I got a 7 mag. It's been around since the Earth's crust was cooling, and I mean, it's shot a ton of stuff for me and clients. I said, I call it the Mamba. I said, use the Mamba. He said, no, I want to use Scott's rifle. I said, oh, you disrespected the Mamba. I said, there is a curse that comes with that. But so he wanted to use the $8,000 rifle. So I said, all right, whatever, okay, use this rifle. So he'll come up here in a second. And this old buck walks up the hill at us, and I'll let you try to listen real carefully to what's being said. It's all up to you. And he's gonna shoot him.
Okay. Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
That was me. So the good news is I can let him off the hook here. He didn't come unprepared. We had watched Scott shoot that gun at the range. Scott, the day before, shot a tremendous buck with that rifle. And Robert said, oh, I want to shoot that because, but anyhow, he had two, and primers were dented, the whole deal. So usually mother, we had good luck and we turned our back on it. But the next day or the day after, he killed a tremendous buck, way bigger, so it worked out. Sometimes Mr. How Does My Rifle Work gets lucky. Or there's Mr. I'm a sniper, don't worry about me. Oh, good shot in the tree. We only hunted 13 days to get on that. Oh. Okay, hold on. I'm going back. I didn't mean to go all the way back now, but I'm sorry, but I don't know how to work this thing any better. But we get to the crocodile. I want you to look at the two crocodiles, all right? There's a rather giant crocodile on the right and a rather smaller crocodile on the left. So we'll, and then I want you to listen real carefully to what the pH says.
It's the wrong crocodile, you knob.
You shot the wrong crocodile, you knob. Oh. The next night. So, we always say, them that can't tells you they can, them that can shuts up and does it. Because it's the guy that gets off the plane and he's handing you these targets he shot at 700 yards. What's a good indicator? I mean, that's not a bad thing, but say, well, I don't know how he is at 1,700 yards. I can tell you how he is on a leopard at 60 yards. He's not so good. But that's just part of it. And then, I was going to name this one called Mr. Don't Let the Scooter 200 extra pounds and double knee surgery fool you. I don't want a big elephant, and I mean, again, we're all in various stages of ability or non-ability. We've had guys that got off the plane that, I thought were literally in their last stages of life and stuff and coming on buffalo hunts. And we really had a guy one day, said he hadn't eaten in like 5 days, and he was from West Virginia, and this is terrible, I know, sorry, and this guy's passed now, which doesn't surprise me, but this guy had one big tooth, and that was it. He said, all I need is soup. We said, well, Jesus, let's get the soup. We need 6 pounds of soup. And this guy, the first day we buffalo hunted, it was about like that. And we went about 75 yards. He goes, well, how far do you think they'll be? But we literally sat, but he was a nice, and at night he would just be so wore out, of not doing much. And say, okay, man, let's go brush your tooth and then let's go to bed and try again tomorrow, And anyhow, but we set him by a water hole for like 3 days to kill one of the best buffalo we killed in the whole season. So there's always a will, there's a way, but it always helps when you book a hunt that you're in reasonable shape to attempt the hunt that you've booked. Now this is a little bit more serious. This is actually a really serious story. Now, my partner Tim is a master of getting on his computer and doing all this stuff, and usually it turns me into a 600-pound fat guy or something. But this was a guy that booked at the Dallas Safari Club show. Now, I don't know if I haven't seen him in years, but anyhow, told me when he booked, he said, I just want to make one thing absolutely clear, and I'm not kidding you. Nobody shoots but me unless somebody is in the act of getting killed. And I've been around this game long enough. I said, well, I'm going to give you my thoughts about that. I've always felt, that nobody's ego, yours or mine or anybody else, is worth somebody getting hurt unnecessarily. I said the professional hunters have a license. They carry a big gun for a reason. They have what we don't have. They've got experience with this kind of thing, and I think it's always a good idea to let the professional hunter make the hard professional decisions. He said, well, I'm telling you, nobody but me, I won't have any problem, you know. I've shot a lot of deer and stuff. Well, you know, buffalo don't care how many deer you shot, and you can shoot him and blow his heart into M&Ms, and he's going to take off in the direction that he's pointing. The professional hunter on this hunt was Owen Lewis, the first man that I showed you and our friends that we've lost. That was his uncle, which he had buried 9 days before by a buffalo that was carrying 9 express bullets in it when it killed him. So, as you can well imagine, he was on a pretty short emotional, you know, string on that deal. The guy shot the buffalo poorly. They got on it again, and hearing the client's words, he said, I could have killed it, but the buffalo shot it in the legs. It took off. 2 more hours. They came around the side of a bush, and it was on the PH's side. And he said the thing was just looking at me from about here, Robert, and he brained him, you know, shot him and dropped the thing. And this client said, hey, take me back. We got to get, you know, and we tried to talk this guy off the ledge. You've stolen my experience. You've stolen my safari. You've ruined the entire experience for me. I told you specifically nobody shoots but me, and he was trying to tell him the story. He said, I'm sorry that happened to him, but that's not my problem. And you know, so the guy went back and so literally called me from Africa. I'd already got a call from the PH, and he just called to tell me when he gets home there's going to be hell to pay because he's going to let everybody know what happened. And you know, I thought about getting really mad at it. I said, you know, I'm gonna talk this guy into reality, and I'm going to try to do it in a way where I really can make this guy feel better about this, because it's a tremendous buffalo. It's an experience he dreamed about forever. And I wrote him a long letter that was waiting for him when he got home, and then followed that up with a couple of phone calls, and he said, I will, and it made not a dent. And he said, I can tell you, you will never see me at Dallas Safari Club or any other hunting show, because I won't be able to take going in there and hearing somebody else's story that their PH didn't steal their adventure from them. And boy, I thought, you know, I look around my own trophy room, I can say that one, and that one got somebody else's bullets in it besides mine. I put mine in there first, but I had some help. And generally when that happens with me, that results in a handshake and a cold beer for you back in camp, you know. But it's just, you know, sometimes, you know, unrealistic attitudes, you know, can spoil a hunt. So the Mr. I don't shoot. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is really one of the funniest stories. There was a guy I was filming a hunt for a crocodile, and it's one of my favorite animals to hunt. And crocodiles are either in or partially, or they're near or partially in the water. And if you shoot a buffalo a little bit off center, you take up the tracks and go kill the buffalo. With crocodiles, we call it the most expensive splash in Africa. There's no tracking a crocodile once it gets into big water. So we always tell people, no matter how good you shoot him, and your brain shot or your neck shot are your 2 options. And brain's about as big as a walnut, and the neck, you got to drive it through about that much tough hide and skin to get to it, and it's a difficult shot. But this guy said, absolutely not. We tell him, let us back you up. I mean, you tell us if you go for the brain, we'll go for the neck. If you go for the neck, we'll go for the head. But we got to stop this thing. And this guy said, no, was arguing back and forth. And he said, listen, guys, I know I've studied. I know anatomy. I'm a doctor. Andrew Dawson, are you a crocodile doctor? You know, and so anyhow, I mean, he just said, guys, don't even bring your gun. And so we baited a big crocodile. So the good doctor, I thought, well, we're good there. I wasn't sure where he hit him, but this one woke him up. Uh-oh. So the old Mr. Nobody Shoots My Animal by Me, when you do that, you have just stamped yourself problem child. And I don't care whether it's on a bear hunt or a African safari or an Asiatic buffalo hunt, you know, probably, you know, of course, in a perfect world, we shoot, the thing falls down, the head pops off, it bursts into flames, and we get our picture, you know. That's just not the way it always works. You know, just kind of wrapping up our team, you know, over the years, we've had the greatest crew of folks, work with us, for our cameraman. Everybody up at the top right, Cameron Kinzer. There's nobody in here that doesn't see Cameron. He is the man on the move. Cameron is a great cameraman. He's a gifted editor. Cameron's so involved in everything DSE. He's the guy you see running around the convention, shooting a lot of the great convention. Cameron does a little bit of everything, and we're beyond proud of Cameron. And we got the McDonald boys, Dan and Andy there, and then the gal up on the top left. Christy, raise your hand. This is Christy Funk. Now, Christy's been where? How long, Christy? When did you come? And she's shy. She won't. 14 years ago. Christy called. We had a friend of ours that was our graphic designer. We were looking for a new cameraman, full-time / editor. And she said, I want you to interview a friend of mine. I said, okay, what's his name? Oh, it's a girl, Christy. I said, not even interested. I said, and I know that sounds bad, but I said, this is, you're going to be living in tents with men and traveling, and it's hard and it's dangerous and blah. Is she a hunter? No. She doesn't know anything about it. I said, it's just, please, I'm asking as a professional courtesy to talk to her. And Christy came in, and her main skills at that point, were editing, and she was really a talented editor. But she eventually made a pitch to us after us was looking at her, and trying to figure out what. She said, listen, will you let me edit for a month? And if you don't think what I have shown you has potential, you won't owe me $1. And I was pretty impressed because I'd actually used that early in my career a few times. And so anyhow, we did. Christy Funk did not know the difference between a bull kudu and a bull elephant. And now Christy has edited more African shows. She has been there. She's a rock solid. She survives in kind of a pretty hard environment in our office, being the only girl. And our pride and appreciation and all the things that we feel for Christy resulted us in several years ago. Tim and I made Christy a full partner in Safari Classics. And I said it 100 times, the luckiest day in the history of our company was the day Christy walked in the door. So, she if you see it on DSE, Cameron and Christy got a lot to do with it, I promise you. And just a few shots of us that, our team kind of doing some of the things. That bottom right is a studio that we have set up at the convention every year down in the dungeon, and that is where a lot of the social media pieces and videos of sponsors and professional hunters and all the stuff that you'll be seeing this year, a lot of that happens down there in the dungeon. And it has really been a target-rich environment for us, and we try to take advantage of our 4 days on the convention and come away with some great stuff that serves us throughout the year. Yeah, look, I'll be honest, I know producers that chase awards and they go in these 6 months, call in, vote us for the deal. We've won some awards, really a lot more than that. We put a few of them, and we're always appreciative of them, but boy, it doesn't drive us at all. What drives us, and I couldn't be, our biggest award, our Oscar, is when somebody comes up to us at the DSC or in an airport or on safari and said, let me know, you guys are the reason that I went to Africa in the first place. Man, I watched tracks for years, and man, you became my bucket list team. And I tape everything that you guys do, and they'll come up and tell you about an episode that they enjoyed and why they enjoyed it. And it is like, a vitamin B shot when we, especially at home at DSE, we have so many friends and stuff down here. So, the recognition we get from people that watch the show, that's why we built the show in the first place. That on top of our relationships with our sponsors. And, we could have picked an easier thing to do for a living, but I wouldn't take it back for anything in the world. And we're not anywhere close to stopping. We're always morphing and trying to figure out a better way to skin the cat. But this is what we do for a living, and God willing, and with the assistance of the fine people in this room and this organization, we'll keep doing it until you're tired of watching it. And that is my presentation. If you'd like any questions or anything, I'm happy to do a question and answer if anybody's got anything. If not, you probably heard more than you wanted to know, but I appreciate you a ton having us out, and for all of Safari Classics. I was just a mouthpiece. I speak for all of us. Appreciate you having us out. Thank you much. Big wad of $100 bills.
Yeah, you got
it. Thank you, Corey.
Great
Appreciate
job.
it.
Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.